Hugh Hefner, a true American icon, created an empire that was unrivaled.
Although some of his bunnies may have gone rogue, it's because of the love and respect that we received from the man behind it all.
The Rogue Bunnies' mission is simple: 100 playmates taking control of their valuable IP, while honoring Hef's iconic Playboy style and bringing that experience to our collectors.
Like only we know how, because after all, we did learn from the best.
Relive the stories from the most prominent celebrity home in history.
From those of us that lived it,
The employees that worked it,
and the guests who loved it.
And
the mayhem continues.
Hi, I'm Victoria Fuller, Miss January 1996.
I'm Brian Olea.
I'm Scott Ramsay. On today's show, we have a very special guest, Rich Correll, proprietor of the Icons of Darkness exhibit in Hollywood, perhaps soon in Las Vegas. Rich, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
About myself, sure. I've been in Hollywood my entire life. I was born and raised in L.A. I started in show business at the age of 8. I don't want to tell you how many years ago that was.
And what was the show that we all know?
Well,
and love?
I did about a year and a half of stuff before I ever got to Leave It to Beaver. But I ended up in Leave It to Beaver as one of the regulars. I was one of Beeve's friends.
Yes.
For about 3.5 seasons.
Yeah, I just saw there's a picture right over here.
Well, there is a picture over here, and the reason there's a picture is because when we were doing Leave It to Beaver, and that picture was taken around 1960, early 60. When we were doing the show, Jerry Mathers and I, who played Beeve, we kept saying to our makeup guy, hey, you need to take us to the makeup lab, because it was Universal, where they made Frankenstein and Dracula and all that stuff. So he took us up there, and we were like, speaking of kids in a candy shop, that's exactly what we were. But we were surprised at the stuff they were throwing in the trash.
Oh, my gosh.
So they were throwing all kinds of stuff in the trash. Like they threw the creature from the Black Lagoon land suit in the trash.
What?
Which at auction now is about $1.7 million.
Wow.
So that was really crazy. But I found, while I was doing this show, I found a head in the trash from Abbott and Costello Meet Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That's why all that stuff's set up over there. I took it out of the trash. I asked this guy, I was a little kid. I was like 10. Can I take that? Oh, yeah, sure. So I took it, and that's what started all this filming.
That was your first.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's like full circle right here.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
6 degrees of separation. Yeah.
Well, and don't get me into get me going on Animal House, because I know that your brother was the cinematographer.
He was the director of photography on it, yeah.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that.
Animal
That's really cool.
And Belushi loved him. Belushi loved my brother, Charlie.
Oh, that's cool.
Great, yeah. I worked with Belushi on a show called Police Squad, and when we worked with him, he was completely with it, wasn't high, was like really cooperative, was really nice, but he was fascinated by it. Oh, you're Charlie Correll's brother. Oh, I love Charlie. It was great. He was gone very soon after that. But regardless, that was cool to see him, and he remembered everything about Animal House, especially Charlie.
So when we were flashing back and you're talking about how, you went rummaging through the trash cans, you kind of started off, you are now literally the largest collector of horror memorabilia, movie memorabilia. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, it's science fiction, fantasy, and horror memorabilia.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is.
It's the biggest collection in the world.
Okay, and we just got to say this too. I mean, Rich, we go way back. We're friends. You hung out at the mansion. You were friends with Hef. You know what I mean? It's so cool for me to finally see this, because back when we had the old show on Playboy Radio, we had talked about. You said, "Hey, one of these days, I'm going to bring this stuff out." Because you have warehouses full of stuff.
I do.
And here we are now, finally on Hollywood Boulevard.
Right. You're going to see about only half of the stuff that I've collected. Because, I didn't have enough room to put it in here. By the way, the connection with Hef was really cool, because I met him because of King Kong. King Kong was my favorite movie as a little kid. And in 1983, we did the 50th anniversary premiere of King Kong right down the street here at the Chinese. Restaged the entire premiere. Built the giant head and the hand, and Fay Ray and I hosted it and everything. But we needed sponsors, and so the PR people we were working with said, "Well, look, you're working with Gary Marshall and doing Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley. Can you get all those people?" I said, "Yeah, but I need a lot more people than that." And Hugh Hefner's name came up, and I said, "I think he's a big film fan. That's what I've heard. So let's ask him." He was the first guy. We sent that invitation to him on a Friday. On Monday morning at 10 o'clock in the morning, he called and said, I want to sponsor this. I want to be part of it. That's how I met him. was through King Kong, because we had this big ceremony down here, and he was one of the celebrities. And then we went across the street to the Roosevelt, where I had set up a thing like this, only all King Kong stuff, and he just freaked out. He just thought this was the coolest thing ever. That's how we met him.
But didn't you also mention before that you met Hef actually because you lived on Mapleton Drive?
Yeah, you're right. In 1971,
Yep.
when he moved into the mansion, we
Yep.
were neighbors.
Yes.
My home was only like 9 doors away from there. So we were like dicking around on a Sunday afternoon. And so Harold Lloyd's granddaughter and 2 of my next door neighbors, we said, hey, Hugh Hefner moved into the neighborhood. And so we said, let's go down there and like ring the doorbell, which was the main gate on Charing Cross.
Yeah.
And they still had, I don't remember if the Rock was
The
there.
Rock.
The
Yeah.
Rock-
Well, but they had, but
The Rock wasn't there, but the
I don't think
microphone
so.
thing was
Yeah, they
there,
had
yeah.
a microphone and a doorbell. So we pushed it, and this voice said hello, and we said, hi, we're the neighbors, and we want to welcome Mr. Hefner to the neighborhood. And we thought, well, that's our ploy. They're never going to go for it. And they said, oh, hold on a minute. And we said, well, that's probably going to be the end of that. They said, oh, Mr. Hefner would like to meet you. Come on up.
Dude.
He had been there 3 days. He moved in on Wednesday, and this was like Saturday. And the gate opened, and we walked up the driveway. We didn't have a car because we had walked
steep
down
driveway,
from
too.
our home. And he was everybody. There was a bunch of girls, including Barbie Benton, and they were in the game room, and they kept listening to Brown Sugar on the jukebox. I'll never forget that.
Which is his personal collection of
Yeah.
45s, is it?
Oh, you want some cool little info? I get to see that jukebox every day.
Oh, that's who you have.
Oh,
it?
you got it?
Yeah,
Oh.
my boss that I also do when I do.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
He got
estate
it.
management. Victorino owns the freaking jukebox.
Those are all
It's
Hef's
so
personal
cool,
records.
and you see all the
Yes.
45s are right there.
Yeah.
It is
Well,
just sick.
he came out and said hi. You're the neighbors, which we were, but we never thought he was going to like go for this. And anyway, so he showed us around, and he took us. I think we went through the Great Hall. I think, and then he took us in the back, and they were working on the grotto. The grotto wasn't done
How old was he at that time?
in 1971.
Yeah, how old was he?
He was in his 40s, wasn't he?
Well, he was young.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was really young.
Prime time.
23.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And so he was.
We're just going to go ring the doorbell and go
Yeah.
say hi to Hef. Hi
Well,
there.
the best thing
Hugh,
is that when
welcome
they
to the
invited us
freaking-
up, we walked up like we were tramps or something. It was like,
But,
That's a hell of a
also,
walk.
too, you also said that before Hef even moved in, you were up at the mansion
Yeah.
because Sir Arthur Letts was the previous owner.
there was a guy named Letts
Yes,
who lived there.
Yep.
yes,
He was a
yes.
friend of my father's. So
Can
from
you
time
imagine?
to time, they would invite us up for
Yeah, he went up to
dinner
the
and
mansion
stuff. This
before.
was long
Whoa,
before,
whoa, whoa,
long
what?
before Hef got
Yes.
there. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rich probably has the biggest history with the mansion than anybody else.
So you know the whole story. Then maybe you can tell us.
Which
The-
is?
the question is about Mrs. Letts.
Yeah.
You know, because she was found in the Great Hall on the floor, and it was always wondered, was she pushed or did she jump?
I don't know.
And to this day, they believe that Mrs. Letts haunts the mansion. And there's been stories of everyone that stayed
Hef
there.
never
What
believed
year-
that.
No.
Hef
What year
hated
did
that story.
happen? Do you know?
That I don't remember.
No,
I know
because
but
when we went up there, I may
1937?
in fact have met
Right.
her.
So-
You know? So I don't
okay.
remember so much about that, about Mrs. Letts. No, I don't remember.
And to give our audience an idea of what this neighborhood is like, the founder of Bank America was your next door neighbor.
Right. Well, we lived in a
And
house.
Judy Garland.
We lived in a house that the entrance was on
yes.
Sunset Boulevard, but then wrapping around us was Mapleton and Charing Cross because
Right.
this was a large property. So our neighbors were Alan Ladd. These are next door neighbors. Alan Ladd, Lana Turner, Judy Garland.
Oh my gosh.
on.
Then we had Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall.
Oh
Sammy
gosh.
Kahn, the Gianninis, who founded the Bank of America.
Yep.
Walt Disney, Jerry
Walt
Lewis.
Disney
and
lived
Carol
next
Burnett.
to where Hef moved in. That's
But
incredible.
we spent a lot of time with Disney, actually.
They
Okay,
went.
we
tell-
want to
Okay.
talk about the story with Judy Garland because I remember you telling me this and I was floored, but we're going to take a quick break. So let's do a quick break. We'll be right back. You are listening to Rogue Bunnies Mayhem.
Hi, this is Angel Boris, Miss July 1996, and Series 1 Rogue Bunny. I'm inviting you to go rogue with the sexiest women on the blockchain and purchase Series 2 trading cards in packs while supplies last. You can also collect individual cards from Series 1 in our marketplace. Just go to roguebunnies.com, click Buy NFTs, and get out a credit card because no crypto is needed, and start collecting. A lucky few will find a legendary or epic card. Why is that special? Well, because you become an instant VIP with access to gated channels to chat with bunnies in our Discord, plus automatic invites to all our IRL events. So what are you waiting for? Just go to roguebunnies.com.
Welcome to the metaverse.
Okay, and we're back. I'm Victoria Fuller here, and we're with our special guest, Rich Correll, close friend of Hugh Hefner and all of us, of course.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
And we're here
Especially
at
all
the
of you guys.
Icons
Yes.
of Darkness right here on
Yeah,
Hollywood
we're at his
Boulevard.
Icons of Darkness on Hollywood Boulevard, and I've had the tour before, and it's a must-see. It's incredible.
Right before we went to break, you were mentioning about Judy Garland. And I remember you telling me a story about, because you were friends with her son, right?
Yeah, Johnny Luft.
Okay, but you had mentioned something about how you were there at her house and she was making...
Yeah. Johnny and I used to play all the time, like we'd play football. And actually, Sid Luft would come out sometimes and play with us. But we used to see Judy Garland all the time. And, she was Mrs. Luft. You never said, hi, Judy. We were too polite.
Oh,
We
yeah.
weren't. So one day we were playing football and we ended up in the kitchen. And she was making soup. And so she gave us cookies, whatever it was. And then Johnny left for a minute, and I was sitting there, and I said, oh, Mrs. Luft, I saw your movie last night. And when The Wizard of Oz came on TV in those days, it was a big deal.
Epic.
It was like on a Sunday night, they would have Danny Kaye host it. By the way, the first 4 times or something I saw it, I thought it was a black and white movie. Nobody had a color TV, so nobody knew it was in color.
Oh, for that last act.
Well,
Yeah.
for most of the movies in color. But
Yeah,
anyway.
it goes from black and white and then boom,
Yeah.
you're in...
So anyway, and so I said to her, I saw your movie, and she said, oh, that's nice, honey. I'm glad you liked it. And I said, can you sing me that song? And so she sang me like the first stanza of Over the Rainbow while she was making soup and I was eating cookies in her kitchen. Yeah.
That's
Judy
incredible.
Garland.
But she also told me a lot about Margaret Hamilton, and we'll see Margaret Hamilton's figure in here. That's my favorite figure in this entire place is the Wicked Witch of the West.
Yes.
The Margaret Hamilton that's in here.
I was just
Yes.
cruising through and I saw that.
Yeah,
And
well-
I still got that little eerie feeling.
Yeah, she's
because
creepy.
It's like kind of going, whoa, okay, I remember this. Kind of freaked out. This
Perfect
is cool.
casting.
And it's the perfect story of most villains in Hollywood are always the nicest people in real life.
Right.
Margaret Hamilton, everybody thought she was this old hag. She was only 36 years old when she made that
Wow.
movie. She's 5'2", so they had to put her on lifts. She wore that dark costume under all the Technicolor lights, never complained about anything, and she was the only one that got hurt. She really got hurt because the makeup, the green makeup on her face was copper-based. Oh. And when she appeared in those plumes of fire, she was so close to the flame that the copper heated up and burned her skin. And still, she was like, hey, hi, everybody. Let's go to work. And, where everybody else was going, oh, these costumes, I'm so hot. And everything. She was like, she said
Amazing.
Margaret Hamilton was
What a
the
saint.
best.
She's a
Yeah,
pro.
she was the nicest.
That's a perfect segue to start walking. Let's
Yeah.
check out the exhibit. I can't wait to see it.
Let's go. Okay, when you first walk in here, you'll see a bunch of superheroes. And lined up on the right here are a whole bunch of bat costumes. Now, the bat costumes, these are all hero costumes. When I say hero, these are the ones that the actual actors wore. But we have a representation of Batman for just about everybody. The only Batman I don't have here is Ben Affleck, but I'm working on it. But,
I forgot he was a Batman.
yeah. And then over a little bit further in is the Sonar costume, which is also from Batman Forever. That's a Val Kilmer original costume that he wore, and that's one of the only designs that made it across both movies because Clooney wore that same design in Batman and Robin.
I just wanted to say that the Chris O'Donnell, his outfit was the first time nipples were introduced into the costume. Just
True.
wanted to throw that
That's
in there.
true. Well, the director kind of insisted on
And
it.
now all I can see is nipples.
That's
Right,
it.
right.
That's all I see.
Let me
look at his
erase
crotch.
let
It's
me let
burning.
me erase that image for you, Brian. So our listeners, when they come to the exhibit, you just need to check out the evolution of the cod piece in these costumes because it's significant.
And
You're
what's a
actually
cod?
making me look at the cod piece.
What's the cod piece? Let's be clear.
That's this junk area thing.
Yes, and Robin's is
Rubbed raw.
rubbed raw. It's like he's got rug burn.
Both this costume and that costume came from the same movie, and
Yes.
they're both nipple costumes.
Out of curiosity, because everyone has their own opinion. Who do you say was the best Batman?
I think Christian Bale was the best Batman.
Really?
Yeah, well, I think those are the best movies. I think the best Batman is Dark Knight because of Heath Ledger,
Right.
And because it's so well directed. That's
Right.
that's a great movie.
Is there a better?
And by the way, I
opening
like
scene?
the new one. I liked Robert Pattinson's movie. I thought it was good. I like a lot of them. So there's a lot of Christian Bale stuff. This is cool over here. This is Michelle Pfeiffer's original costume as Catwoman. And that's also from 1992. That's from Batman Returns.
That's with Danny DeVito as the
there's
Penguin.
Danny DeVito and his entire costume
I
right
always
there.
thought that his character,
Right.
dude.
That's his entire costume, and even his umbrella.
Are they actually
Wow.
to size? Like,
Yeah, everything in
it's
here
like
is the
Michelle
exact.
Pfeiffer here, right? Is
Well,
that her
Michelle is
height?
standing on a 3-inch lift, and she's got 3-inch heels on because
She's tiny.
She was very small. She's only like 5'3.5".
Wow.
So
And
she's
and
not
Danny
big.
DeVito, he's on a
He's 4'11".
Yeah, he's on a 4-foot lift, and he's still
Yeah, he's
short.
still small. Yeah.
Yeah,
This is
amazing.
cool. That's a flying suit that Christopher Reeve wore in both Superman 1 and 2.
Does it work?
You mean if you put it on, do you fly?
Yeah. Okay,
I don't
yeah.
think I would try that.
Darn.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of superhero stuff: Spider-Man, Batman, Iron Man. You name it, we got it.
Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze.
That's a really cool costume. Again, a strange movie, but that's a great costume. And that costume, if you get the costume on and you put the gun on and the whole thing weighs like, I don't know, 75 pounds.
Yeah,
It's-
only he could probably deal with
yeah,
all
it's
that.
really heavy.
So obviously they didn't wear these masks, right? Because it was their own face. What are these heads that are on the
I have
costume?
those built.
Okay.
Like, for
To go.
instance, if I have a head, I'll put it on something with a costume. If I have a costume, I'll put it on something with a head. I don't want to show just...
The
There's
costume.
very few things in here that are just costumes, because I
Okay.
think they're much more interesting like
The quality of the work is just astonishing. The
Yeah, it's really
craftsmanship.
cool.
Incredible.
Now look,
That's
behind you, a whole bunch of gremlins.
I love this.
Victoria's favorite.
Yes.
Including Gizmo. That's
the
her favorite.
Gizmo. I want him. He's so
Yeah, he's
cute.
so cute. And here's Margaret Hamilton.
Yes.
Okay, so
Was that her original costume?
No, her
Okay.
original
That
costume,
looks
her hat,
very close.
her hat alone sold at auction for $310,000 about 2 just the hat. So that's
Did she only have one?
No, there were several, including one they called a flying hat that was used
Oh,
for just
okay.
flying scenes. I feel like
I mean, the
kinship.
teeth.
I
The
was just
teeth
looking at the teeth.
are like they didn't have Invisaligns back then, but
No.
she
She's
has
British.
okay.
Or did she put in
kidding.
teeth to?
Yeah,
for
were
the
those
wig?
her teeth?
Well, yeah, her teeth weren't very straight. No.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
And the costume was remade as well. You had that remade.
Everything that
'Cause
you
that's
see in here, if there's
incredible.
any replicas of anything or any heads of people, they have to be perfect or I won't bring them in here. So every thread,
that
every
costume's
line,
incredible.
everything. Yeah, the pouch on it, the cape on it,
Yeah.
everything's exactly the same.
I'm actually geeking out on the freaking Slee Stack, dude. From Land of the
Land of the
Lost.
Lost.
Come
I have
on.
like 4 of those. I have 4 of those guys.
These
Yeah.
are not from
You
the
can
original.
hear it in your head
though.
right now, can't you?
The original is the Sid and Marty Krofft
Yes.
TV show. No, this is from the Will Ferrell movie.
That is cool.
Meanwhile, while we've been geeking out on this, dinosaurs have
Oh,
snuck
yeah.
up behind
Oh
us.
yeah.
This
yeah.
is one of the things that everybody comes to see. I have original dinosaurs from Jurassic Park 1, 2, and 3. And we also have the 600-pound hydraulic heads. I've got 4 of those, but these are the T-Rex. That T-Rex is from Jurassic Park 2. That's one of the hero females. This is the sneezing Brachiosaurus that sneezes on the ground in the
Yes.
tree.
Yes.
All of the baby birds are from Jurassic Park 3 from the nest.
Wow.
Those are pteranodons. Here's the mom's head. And there's a Stan Winston clip of them working with this.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, you have the video monitor over
Yeah,
here,
well, the
so-
Stan Winston School and Stan Winston's guys, Matt Winston's a good friend of mine, and he comes here to visit stuff, and he loves that it's all here because it's kind of like a tribute to his dad. It's really awesome. And you can see a little bit of deterioration on these guys
Yeah.
from time to time, and because these things have to be maintained all the time. You know, they weren't made to last for years and years and years.
Right.
And these are all, everything in there moves, the teeth, the tongue, the eyes,
And you
everything.
could see in the snout, there's obviously stuff comes out of the snout because I could see little holes up there.
They did all of that stuff. Army of Darkness is like
Yes,
everybody's
this is the
favorite.
one I'm looking at
But I
because
have a
I'm
lo-
flashing back to the mansion.
You have some of this in your
dude.
house.
Yeah.
You used to bring a lot of your stuff over to the
Yeah,
Playboy
yeah,
Mansion
yeah,
for
yeah.
Halloween
I have a
parties.
lot of Army of Darkness stuff, but those people are interested in this. Those are miniatures they used, and when the army starts coming to life, those are actual screen-used miniatures that they used from that film. I love that. It's really fun.
Wow.
So flashing back and thinking about the Halloween parties up at the Playboy Mansion.
Yep.
How did that? I just remember when you used to have your whole crew come in and they put all the heads up in the Great Hall. It was sick. And then that one time you did the maze in the actual living room and all that stuff, and you bring all your stuff in. How did that even start? Like,
Yeah.
did you and just the boss just have like a conversation and you're like, you know what, I got all this stuff, I'm going to bring it over? I mean,
It started in the dining room with me and Robert Culp.
Oh, Robert
Culp and I would talk about Halloween. He loved Halloween, and I said, you know, I do all this stuff, and I have all this stuff, and we should do a party and everything. And he said, okay. I'm going to talk to Hef about that. And he ended up talking to Mary about it, Mary O'Connor.
Yes.
And then I went to Hef and said, are you interested? Because Hef and Kim used to come to my house when the kids were little on Halloween. They were
Marsden
good
and
friends
Cooper,
by
yeah.
that point when Marsden and Cooper were small kids. And Hef would say to me, we should put some of this stuff up to decorate the mansion. And I would say, well, some of it goes on tour, so it's not around. But if we ever have a chance to do it, I'll let you know. And then in 1999, I came to him and said,
That was the first time you brought Halloween back.
yeah, I
after
said, do you want to
long
do a
time.
Halloween party? And he said, yeah, only if it's like the best Halloween party ever. You never say that to me. It's like,
Yeah.
watch this.
Challenge
Yeah,
accepted.
watch
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So I gave him a budget. I said, this is what I think it's going to cost. He said, what are you going to do? I showed him the design of how I wanted to haunt the property, all 6 acres of it, the side hill, the tennis court,
Everything.
everything. And then I took the most fun I ever had with Hef is when I would have the design for the party, and the two of us, just the two of us, would walk around the whole property and say, and here we're going to do this, and here, and he'd laugh and laugh and laugh, and then I'd say, we're going to scare people, and he'd go, yeah, you got to really scare people. He was like a little kid.
He's the best.
I had so much fun doing that. But that's what happened. We would design, and this was like 3 months before the party. We would design all this stuff and say, this is what I was going to do. One party we had up there had 106 actors. It had 2 ADs, 17 makeup people, 4 wardrobe people, 2 18-wheelers of stuff, because we brought stuff out from Columbus, Ohio. This was literally a movie.
That party actually backed up Sunset Boulevard, and I believe after that party, because everybody was a drive up at that time.
Yes.
But it backed up Sunset so bad that that's when they started the busing, if I'm not wrong.
It was so bad. Yes, you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. As a matter of fact, cops had all been out there. They're like, "You guys, what have you created
The
here?"
fire department,
And,
everybody was like-
freaking out.
it was epic.
But, I just remember just seeing. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Well,
because all your memorabilia there at the mansion, and like you were saying, like people in costume and jumping out and scaring people. It just kept growing. It kept growing.
The Star Wars collection is off the hook, and I know this isn't even all of your stuff, but the Star Wars stuff is so cool.
But all the Star Wars stuff is
Yes.
stuff I've been collecting for a long time. The costume, that's a Darth Vader costume built by ILM, and that was used as a touring costume for The Empire Strikes Back. But this glass case with this head in it is a production-made head that crossed both Star Wars, the first one and the second one. And I love, this is Alec Guinness's life cast, and makeup is Obi-Wan Kenobi, so that's totally awesome.
Why would they do what did they do a life cast for?
We're going to explain that. There's a
Okay.
whole thing of life casts
Okay.
here, and I'll explain them when we get
Okay.
there. But life casts are used by makeup departments all the time to build makeups and things.
When you were talking earlier about bringing, the boss and Kimberly would bring over Marsden and Cooper when they were little boys. Did you have the Harry Potter stuff? Because I know they're huge Harry Potter
No,
fans.
because there wasn't any Harry Potter.
No,
movie.
that came much
shoot.
later.
Yeah, that's a lot later. Yeah. That's
'cause
before any of
I
that
just remember
happened.
them running around the whole property and dressing up in Harry Potter outfits and just
Well, but the
just
kids also,
making
when we were
movies. It was
setting
so
up
cool.
Halloween, they would go wild.
Oh, they would go
Oh,
crazy.
yeah.
Loved it, but they wanted Beth, especially Cooper, they wanted my wife, Beth, to take them through when we were setting up, because even during setup, they were afraid because of all the stuff that jumped out at people.
Yeah.
So what do you think about like now with technology and now robots are actually being used? I've seen some videos where they're talking about that. Do you think? I think it's getting a little scary.
mean with
We could
AI?
with AI, but
Well,
also
that- they
robotics. Like we could
compare a lot-
eventually have robotic cops actually in our world. We might be able to see
compare
that.
a lot of AI problems to the movie's Terminator and what could happen if AI took over. I'm not so worried about that yet.
Yet.
Maybe I'll worry about it in a few years, but I'm not so worried about it.
We
a
wait till
lot
that shit
more
happens.
Star Wars stuff, including the most famous robot ever. That Yoda. Yoda is all from original molds. That's not one of the original puppets, because an original Yoda puppet now would sell for about $4 million. Wow. So it's a lot of money.
So my nickname growing up from my grandmother, way before the movie came out with the Ewoks, was Wicket.
Wicket?
Wicket was
Nice.
my Wicket the Pooh was my. Don't ask me where it came from, but that was what my grandmother called me, Wicket. And then when it came out and the main
you
character was
are-
Wicket,
You're now forever Wicket. That's it.
guess that's
Right.
You brought it up.
Wicket the
That's my
Pooh.
new favorite fact about Victoria.
So when the movie came out, I was so excited because.
So you
Yeah.
guys, my favorite Star Wars villain was always Darth Maul.
Darth
so
Maul.
I was really excited when I got that costume, because that's one of Ray Park's original costumes.
Wow.
It's one of the ones he wore in Tunisia, and that's his life cast in makeup as Darth Maul. So that's cool. And this is one of the original lightsabers used for Return of the Jedi. And it's cool if you look at it carefully, you can see like it's kind of dirty and it's got soil mark from hands, and it's real. But that makes it worth more money.
Oh yeah,
that's really
DNA.
cool.
There's DNA.
Yeah, there's DNA on that, and then a lot more Star Wars stuff, and then we have aliens, and of course the most famous alien, the good guy. That's E.T. That's one of the only copies of E.T. that ever came out of Universal. Ever.
Is that the E.T. that would be set up in the Great Hall? It would be on the. He had. Remember, the boss had those two chairs. Remember, there was like a king and queen chair.
I mean, I have a number of them, but this is one of the originals.
And we would actually put one of the boss's robes on it.
Oh, I don't know about that. Maybe. You know, I've had that a long time. Most of this stuff that I've had for a long time has been reconditioned because I have a group of guys that restore stuff for me. And this was something that was restored because it was in kind of bad condition, but it's one of the only ones that ever came out of the studio. Star Trek, a lot of Star Trek stuff, and then everything here from Planet of the Apes.
This is where I'm geeking out.
This is all Academy Award-winning makeup. 1968, John Chambers won, and then in 2001, Rick Baker won.
And so we're walking through here. There's so much stuff here, but this is just a fraction of what
no, it's more than a fraction. It's about 50%. But I mean, if you took this and times it times 2, that's about it. That's about the size of the collection. Amazing. I never stopped collecting. And my wife is like, do you need to collect more stuff? Really? Do you need more stuff?
Well, if you don't, I don't know.
Now imagine when he's able to put this in a much larger setting.
And spread it out.
Well, like the Jurassic Park vignette could be...
Well, the Jurassic Park thing we're building in Vegas is a bit of a preview. As you go into like a jungle, there's also a lot of interimmersive stuff projected, and you see the original dinosaurs, but then the trees part of the T-Rex comes out and tries to eat you. You know, it's like, I mean, so everything's moving around. It's really
So it's going to be like this, but on steroids.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly right.
Do you think that you're going to have this in Vegas by October?
No, we can't do it. Strangely enough, MGM Resorts wants us to do it by October, but we can't.
I just picture a Halloween party. I just think it would be so cool.
The biggest thing in the world.
Rogue Bunnies, freaking Halloween party with Icons of Darkness. Come on.
We'll do that. We just won't do it this year. We'll do it next year.
Okay.
You guys, I'm so proud of this.
You know, I like that you just said that too. Like, you're having the most fun. I mean, this is your love. This is your passion. Oh, man. This is your passion.
This is so much fun for me. You know? I mean, I directed a lot of television shows, and I loved doing that. And I loved being in that business, and I loved going to work. That was really fun. But this is the stuff I dream about at night and get up and go, hey, I'm going to go do this.
You created Hannah Montana.
I did.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a contrast between
Hannah Montana
and the scariest aspects of Hollywood.
And The Shining. Yeah.
The Shining, yes. Like, this is better than the Wax Museum.
I won't bring stuff in here unless it's, like, perfect. It's like if people sculpt heads for me. Right now we're doing Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith from Men in Black because I just bought their costumes, and I have a lot of those aliens, so we're going to do like a Men in Black display. But the guys making the heads, if they're not perfect, then I'll have them redo them. So
you don't only collect the original movie stuff, you also create stuff to add to the experience.
Correct.
That's amazing.
They want everybody to see it the way it was.
Well, that's why this exhibit has so much impact. The screen used props and items are amazing, but the way that you present them that puts it over the top.
Well, you know, you guys, this place that we're in right this very second, this was a clothing store, and these were the dressing rooms.
This was American Eagle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these were dressing rooms.
Wow.
So when we rented this place, I looked at it and went, wait a minute. I can make little sets out of this. This is great. And so we put the scarier stuff in because it's kind of claustrophobic. Mm-hmm. And then we have stuff that jumps at people, and that really gets people.
Well, I don't want to give it away, but I know the stuff that jumps.
But the thing is, one of the things that's cool about this collection is that a lot of this stuff is old enough to have been made before the dawn of CGI. Mm-hmm. That's why the dinosaurs are so cool, because they're practical dinosaurs. Now, when they do Jurassic World, everything's a computer.
Yeah,
everything's CGI. They make maquettes, but they don't make the full size guys.
Can I ask you, when after he was doing the Halloween parties with all your stuff after a while, he just kept some of the decorations up, like over the front door. Was that yours? Did you get that for him? And then he would just cover it.
The stuff that he kept the most was the gargoyles.
The gargoyles. It was always on the front of the house, and then it was permanently there on the front of the house, which was odd.
I asked him, I said, should I rent these or buy them? And he said, well, what are they? I showed him what they were and what they did. He said, well, buy them. And so he went and bought them. They weren't that expensive, actually.
Okay, so those weren't movie
But then
things.
they moved, and they did their wings, and they breathed fire and stuff. Yeah. And then he just said, leave them up there.
Yeah,
and I thought,
remember summertime, they're still there.
He wants to leave stuff on the house like that? This guy is awesome.
They were the coolest.
Yeah, he just left them up. This is all stuff from Walking Dead. Norman Reedus' original costume and crossbow, and the dead guy on the ground, and zombies walking up behind him. This was actually donated to us by AMC because they wanted that in here. And they said to me, "You'll like this, Brian." They said to me, "So what are you going to do with this stuff?" Because they just gave us the costume and the crossbow. I said, "I'm going to make a head of him. I'm going to put him in a set where there's a zombie laying on the ground, and the zombie has an arrow, and there's another zombie coming up behind him like in the show." And they said to me, "Oh, okay, so you're going to have zombies in the set?" And I went, "Yeah." And they said, "Well, do you have any zombies?" Me. It was like, let me open my warehouse. Let me open up the warehouse. I got about 90 of them. Let's see what we'll do. You know,
well, I remember you allowed me to come over and tour the house back in the day. And you were just seeing all the stuff you'd gotten set up for the Halloween party.
Yeah.
And you're like, "Oh, Brian, this is nothing. Look at this." And all of a sudden you have your garage, and your garage just opens up, and the whole thing was just filled. So I think it's funny. Do you have
But
some
the funny thing
zombies?
is, people who know I collect this stuff, the people who know, they always say, "Oh, we have to see your house." And my house is not the Addams family house. It's just a regular house. You know, my
Gorgeous
wife and I-
house, by the
my
way.
wife
It's
Beth is like,
awesome,
no,
dude.
we're not going to put all this stuff in the house.
You do have some stuff, though.
Some, yeah.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but some.
Well, it's a lot.
not a
for
lot to
most-
me.
Yeah. Let's rephrase that.
And-
Dude, you
and-
have the ultimate toy collection.
The
It
ultimate.
is the ultimate
Action
toy. Except
figure
except it's full size.
Yeah, I mean, it's sick.
You notice?
So, like, do you ever, like, all of a sudden you get an opportunity? Obviously, you have a lot of friends in the industry, and they call you and go, "Rich, oh my God, we just got hold of this prop or this costume or this stuff," and you're just like geeking out, going excited, and then there comes the conversation with Beth, your wife.
Oh, no,
honey,
Beth is a
No,
great
she's
sport
resigned.
about it.
She's
She's a really good sport about it.
I got this little thing that I'm thinking would look really good in the living room.
The best, the funniest thing about Beth is, you know, when we went back to Columbus, Ohio, to first get all this stuff out of storage, we found like, 12 Freddy heads. And she was going, "What? Freddy heads?" And I said, Beth, you can never have too many Freddy heads. And she was like this, yeah, sure. You can never have too many Freddy heads. Yeah, one's plenty enough. You know,
But
it's
didn't
like,
you
great.
say before that you also sometimes you forget what you have and then you buy something, you're like, "Oh, I kind of had a bunch of those
Yeah, I forgot
already."
that I had
You
that,
for-
yeah,
You had it.
yeah.
But you know what? They're all different, right? Even if they're the same, they all have their own little story.
Yeah, you know, they're all different, but still,
Evolutions.
sometimes I buy duplicates and stuff and go, what was I doing? Here's the creature from the Black Lagoon. We put this in here for Victoria. I had this rebuilt from original molds. That is not the original costume. I told you that got thrown out, but that was in the grotto at the Playboy parties for Halloween. And there's a picture of Hef down here, and that picture.
Oh, that is
That's
awesome.
actually that very statue is in that picture. Now, you guys, this is all my favorite stuff.
Yes.
If it weren't for Bela Lugosi and the movie Dracula, which took off in 1931 and saved Universal, the whole Universal horror cycle wouldn't have happened. So Lugosi is very, very important. I always loved him. I thought he was always very sinister and really cool. But I loved the movie Dracula, so he's here. And then, of course, this is the most famous face in horror movie history, which is the Frankenstein monster.
I remember
Victoria,
the boss used to have like a big giant Frankenstein.
Yes,
Remember
the
that?
metal one.
Yes, and that would be right in the Great Hall, leading right to the restroom.
And the guy that made that made every single one of these heads and every single one of these figures. That's all Mike Hill stuff.
Wow.
This life cast of Boris Karloff, they would take plaster castings of the actors' faces and then build the makeups on the plaster cast so the actor wouldn't have to sit for hours and hours.
That's what they're for.
This process started around 1920, and it's the only process that they still continue to do. So this has made it through all of these decades. Look at this.
We're looking at Robin Williams here and Mrs. Doubtfire. Was Robin really that short?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. Robin was about 5'9".
Did you ever meet him?
I worked with him for 3 years.
What?
On Mork and Mindy, yeah. I was there when he arrived.
Wow.
Doing Happy. Well, he came into play on Happy Days.
Oh, Happy Days.
And he was a
Yes.
replacement.
That's right.
The first guy they didn't like him, and after the second day, they got rid of him and said, we have to find... Scotty Marshall, who was Gary Marshall's son, was 10 years old, and he was crazy about Star Wars. And he said to Gary, "You should make an episode of Happy Days that has like Darth Vader in it. I have an alien in it." So they said, okay. So they originally wrote Mork as a bad guy, but he was, it's a comedy. So they needed someone to be kind of kooky. And it was like John Biner or somebody came in to play him. And it just didn't work out very well. And so they said, now we got to get somebody. And Ronnie Hallen, who was Gary's sister, that's Penny Marshall's sister, older sister, was one of the casting people. And she had been in San Francisco 2 months before it to a nightclub and saw Robin Williams. And he made all these noises, was doing all these faces and stuff. She said, let's see if we can get this guy. They got him. They brought him down. And I mean, like, he took over. There was no way that Robin could play mean. Because so he always played like interesting, but like originally Mork was supposed to be a bad guy that came to take Fonzie away. No, he came to take Richie away, and Fonzie takes his place. And there's like a battle between them. But when Robin showed up, it was like everybody went like, oh my God, because he was like the most talented guy you can imagine. And when they made Mork and Mindy, it was a spinoff of Happy Days, and it was one of the only network shows they made with no pilot. They just said, give this guy a show.
Wow.
And Pam Dauber had made a show about nuns where she was playing a nun. And they said, use this girl and get this guy and just make Mork and Mindy. Don't even make a pilot.
Is it true that they had to have someone special on the set all the time listening to Robin Williams because he would say profanity hidden inside of his...
No.
Oh, I read that.
No, and the other thing is he was a fantastic improv guy.
Yes.
But... in multi-camera, you have to hit marks, and you have to land over here, and you have to do blocking. So
they had a ton of cameras, right?
Yeah, it wasn't quite the improv that everybody thought it was. But when they said cut, and he would take off like going into the audience, that was the best. That was better than the show.
So that show had more cameras than most sitcoms, right? Because
no,
they had to catch...
it was still a 3-camera show.
Oh,
but Gary told Howard Storm, who was the series director on it, let the cameras roll more when he starts doing his bits and stuff, because that was a whole show in itself.
Yeah.
He was the most amazing mind. He could read the front page of the newspaper and then do 20 minutes of a bit, and it was the funniest stuff you ever heard.
So clever.
The guy was so cool. He was a great guy.
Digging on the Crow, man.
Had to have the Crow in here.
Yes.
Brandon Lee was killed doing this movie, which was awful. That was a gun accident. But this is one of his original costumes from the movie, and he was a friend of mine, so... I had to have him in here, and plus that's a great fantasy movie. I like that movie a lot. All the RoboCop stuff, the Versace designed Judge Dredd costume of Sylvester Stallone's.
Designed by Versace.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
And then over here, this is so cool. Check this out.
The hammer, man.
This is Chris Helmsworth hammer from Thor: The Dark World, the original hammer. And then this is Captain America. This is one of the screen-used battle damaged from the Avengers. This happened to be Captain America's from the Avengers. This is Stan Lee's costume that he had on in Iron Man, and he's actually called Hef by Robert Downey Jr. So he was supposed to be Hef here with the pipe and this is what he wore in the movie, and that's a nice figure of Stan, who's obviously one of the founders of Marvel. So
now I'm looking at the smoking jacket because the boss had two different kinds of smoking jackets. He had this one, which is like more of the red velvet, and then he had the other one, which was more of the heavier one. But I know the guy that made these robes. Is that actually one of Hef's robes?
I can't tell you that. It came from the wardrobe department, so I don't know who made it.
I'm wondering if they got hold of us.
Talking about Rick
made
Howlett?
it because no, not Rick. It's actually another gentleman in Beverly Hills who actually made these. I remember we were commissioned at one time for the museum, Wax Museum, down the street, and that is one of Hef's robes that was made for that. So I'm curious if we had that made. But it's so cool. That is awesome.
Yeah, and that came right from the studio. And, it's a tribute to Hef as well as a tribute to Stan. So I love that thing.
That's a great.
And that's how we end the tour. Actually,
Rich, we cannot thank you enough. This was the most amazing afternoon for us. Our listeners, you need to get here if you're in Los Angeles. Get to the Icons of Darkness exhibit in Hollywood. It's amazing. Catch it before it goes to Las Vegas.
And it's right on Hollywood Boulevard, right at the now Dolby Theater, Groman's Chinese Theater. And it's kind of hidden.
Corner of Hollywood and Highland.
Right at the corner next to Foot Locker. It is a must-see. I've been twice now. I will probably come again because there's so much to see. And just even the second time, I saw so much more than I did the first time. It's just endless. It's amazing.
If you guys had fun, I had more fun than you did. So how about that?
Well, Rich,
I have a great time doing
Thank you
this.
so much, man.
You bet.
I mean, and thank you for your friendship and you're just like the coolest freaking dude. I swear,
I
man.
know.
By the way, Brian's my agent. Brian is my agent, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
Well, and there's got to be a website, right, that people can go to?
Yeah. Icons of Darkness. Yeah. You go to iconsofdarkness.com on any social media, and you can see stories about me and the collection and where we are, and you can get tickets or whatever you want to do.
Okay, well, we're going to revisit this
Fantastic.
collection when it's, in its new home, and I look forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
This is awesome. Thank you so much, Rich. I'm Brian Olea.
I'm Victoria Fuller.
Scott Ramsay.
And
The mayhem continues.